You're not throwing money away by renting, but you might be doing something that's worse. You see, there's this idea that renting is a huge waste of money. But renting isn't the problem. Renting without owning is. And if you think about it like this, renting without owning is like buying a brand new iPhone every month and then throwing it in the trash because you're spending the money either way, but you're not keeping anything. And you don't even have to necessarily buy where you live either, but you should try to own somewhere because real estate is still one of the most reliable ways to build wealth. For me, wealth isn't about cars, watches, or designer bullshit. It's more about freedom. The freedom to go play tennis on a Tuesday afternoon, to spend the day with my son, the freedom to say no, maybe to a boss, to a schedule, to anything that causes me unnecessary stress. My goal is to own my time so I can own my choices. When I was in my 20s, I was lucky and I bought my first place. It was far from perfect, but it did teach me a lot. Most importantly, it got me into the market early, which gave me options. And that's really the point here. You don't need a huge portfolio of properties, but what you do need to do is start. Because the path to that kind of freedom starts with ownership. But there's a lot of noise out there about what ownership actually looks like. If you're like me, when I was renting, I heard people say, stop paying someone else's mortgage or quit lining your landlord's pocket. But if we slow down for a second, buying can come with very real upfront costs that renters just don't ever deal with. What you're taking on is a big down payment, often tens of thousands of dollars upfront. You also have closing costs, legal fees, inspections, appraisals, title insurance. This can be 2 to 4% of the entire purchase price. And you have property tax. These come every single year, whether your home goes up in value or not. And you have maintenance, you have repairs. And this is not just countertops, right? Think water heaters, furnaces, roofing, windows. And you have utilities and insurance. Bigger bills across the board. And if interest rates go up, well, if you're on a variable rate, your payments jump, and sometimes fast. If you're on a fixed rate, well, you're safe for now, but when your term ends, you could be renewing into a much higher rate. One way or another, you're paying for it. Lots of people still say, but buying is still much better than renting. Maybe, but when you actually stack up the real numbers against each other, especially on something like a $750,000 home compared to renting a similar place, you might start to see a different story. Buying a $750,000 home here in Kelowna today means a minimum down payment of $50,000. It's 5% on the first $500,000 and 10% on the remaining $250,000. But because your down payment is less than 20%, you also have to pay for mortgage insurance. It's usually about 4% of the mortgaged amount, and it gets added right onto your loan. By the way, that insurance is just the cost of putting less than 20% down, and it's insurance that protects your lender, not you. So your actual mortgage ends up being a little higher, around $730,000, once the insurance is rolled in. And at roughly 4.89% interest over 25 years, your monthly mortgage payment would land at about $4,100. Then you add property tax, home insurance, and general maintenance. You're looking at about $4,600 to $4,700 a month just to carry that property. Whereas renting a similar home would cost about $3,000 a month, and that's including renter's insurance. So in this example, that's a difference of roughly $1,600 to $1,700 a month. And that's before you ever touch a furnace, replace a roof, or deal with a surprise special assessment. So renting, you see, it can offer you something a lot of people don't think of: flexibility. You're not stuck paying for a broken furnace, leaky roof, or foundation repairs. If something breaks, you call the landlord and they cover it. Property tax, rising insurance premiums, major upgrades, these are not your problem. Also, renting gives you mobility. If a better job comes up, you can go without worrying about selling your home. If your life changes, maybe you get married, you have kids, your career shifts, you can adapt faster and usually cheaper. Also, a big one, the money you're not sinking into down payments, taxes, and maintenance, you could start investing anywhere between $500 to $1,000 a month into something like an index fund or an ETF and let compound interest do its work in the background. And after just 5 years, that could stack up to tens of thousands of dollars without carrying the risks that come with owning. See, renting isn't throwing money away. It can actually be a really smart move to buy flexibility, opportunities, and in some cases, a lower risk path to financial freedom. On the flip side, over the course of those 5 years, if you were to buy a home, yes, you're building equity. You're paying down the mortgage, and you're likely to see some appreciation. But it's not all profit. You're also taking on very real risk. Also, if you're stretching just to afford your place, it could slow down you and your family's ability to save, invest, or even just enjoy the things that matter to you. So it may sound silly, but ask yourself, if a better opportunity came up, would you want the freedom to take it? Are you going to be rooted in this house for 5 or more years? Are you buying because it fits your life or because you think you're supposed to do? And if owning meant cutting out your travel, your hobbies, your flexibility, would it still feel like a win to you and your family? Because buying a home isn't just a financial decision. It's a lifestyle one. It's about how you want to live, not just what you can afford on paper. It has to fit into your goals, your freedom, the way you actually want your life to look and feel. Not just what the market says, and definitely not just what your buddy thinks is a smart move. So if you're stuck thinking between renting versus buying, you're not alone. I put together a quick pre-approval form. It takes about 60 seconds, and it basically just helps me understand where you're at. If you're ready, we'll book a call and go through some options. If not, no pressure. You can grab a free checklist below. Either way, you're taking a smart step forward. And if you guys have questions, talk to me.